Hello, Super League fans worldwide. It's that time of the week again, and your main boys, Greavesy, Steve, and Fifey are here, and we're blessed. We've been graced by the presence of one of the gaffers. Ryan's with us as well. Good evening, fellas. How are you all?
Good evening, Squire.
Good, thanks, Matt.
I just take a minute to thank everyone for the feedback on last week's show that we got. It was interesting to hear what you all thought as we slightly changed up the style a bit. So I've gone with the same sort of thing this week, where I've picked out specific topics as opposed to just going through each team individually. So, but still plenty for Steve and Greasy to argue about and Ryan to sit on the fence over. We're also hoping, perhaps, and there's no promises, that Jamie might still be jumping on at some point as well to have his say. But let's get going. And the first thing I'd like to talk about is the top six generally. Most teams, I think both the last two game weeks, only one team inside the top six has won. Game week just gone, obviously, Greavesy, it was you. Previous week, it was Ledesford. Are we at that point now where we're looking at 1, 2, 3, possibly even 4 sides being considered as bottling it? Steve, I'll ask you first.
Well, I think there's one side, considering Wednesday night, that you can't say bottling it at the minute is Macca. He dragged it, regardless of whether it was against me or not. He dragged himself out of a match ball to get a result of some kind, which will stand him in good stead going forward. It just seems that the clump are there. I genuinely think Odgie's found his formula now, that for me, near enough. I don't want to put any jinxes on him. I think he will be definitely in the 6. Jens has started getting the Macca and Fifey tone about him, playing himself down. I won't make it. So I think he's hoping for a bit of similar what's happened with you two lads. But I still think, I know there's only 4 games to go. I still think bottling it at the minute is a difficult thing to say about a team at the minute, considering the clumps that are in.
Ryan, has it surprised you these last couple of game weeks to see so many of the top 6 failing to pick up the points? I mean, we spoke previously a couple of weeks ago. Obviously, Devils hit 40 points, and we've now gone and lost the last 2. And with 4 games to go, we still haven't got the playoff square. We'll talk to Greavesy in a minute about being top of the league. He hasn't even got the playoff secured square. I know people will say he is all but there, but he hasn't actually got that playoff place nailed down yet. And everyone's dropping points, which has given the likes of Gazelles and Bostock the chance to steal it late on.
Was there a question in there?
Yeah,
if there was, I missed it.
Are you surprised to see so many of the teams dropping points at the same time?
Sorry. The people are dropping points for different reasons.
Ladies and gentlemen watching this is what happens when Ryan doesn't have a week to prepare what he's going to say. It's just, sorry, I don't know what's really going on here.
So I think, considering all the teams are relatively even this season, I think that teams getting beat by other teams, no matter where they are in the league, is not that much of a surprise. What can I say about? I don't think any team's really bottom it. You can be teams that go on a relatively bad run. I mean, Fulchester have got a couple of draws. They've played absolutely horrible football. I mean, maybe they were slightly unlucky against your boys, Greavesy, but they played absolutely terribly against Dudley, and somehow got a point. I mean, people are going through different runs for different reasons. Fifey, you've played potentially this week the best team in the league on form in Locomotive, and you've then the week before it was a bit of an anomaly because you played your reserves, so there's no real. But the only team I would kind of say, and it's a team which I think a couple of weeks ago when I looked at and said, no, they're nailed on, who've now gone on a bit of a bad run and could potentially continue that bad run. Sloths. I mean, they got beat 3-0, was it? By on Wednesday. And they didn't look good at all. They were the only team I'd say that have been soundly beaten. And you look at it, if you think a team's going to drop out of it and go on a bad run, they generally get soundly beaten in a couple of those games. And I thought that was a really poor performance from Sloth on Wednesday. So it'll be interesting to watch what happens. I kind of agree with Greavesy on Bostock, on Leathersford. Sorry, Steve on Leathersford, from all over the place. Since they've gone to that Montella and Torres strike force, they look a completely different outfit, don't they? Which kind of
the levels they're getting.
Yeah, it's kind of put the rest of the playoff contenders on notice, really, that Leathersford are coming. But yeah, and yeah, I mean, battling it. I think maybe agree with Steve. It's a bit too early to tell, but the early signs are for Sloths, definitely.
And Greavesy, as we sort of mentioned a little while ago, we do have new leaders after your win midweek. Congratulations again. I thought, to be fair, from my perspective, it was a decent game. Both teams went for it. You know, that there were plenty of shots on goal from both sides. It's not like it was a champion as such, or it was utter dominance from your team. It was an even game, and as was the theme of the game week, really. There was, 3 or 4 games where there was late goals that completely changed where the points went. But yeah, you're at the top of the league now, and you must be confident. I've got the permutations written down for Ryan, which we'll go to in just a minute. But you're all but there now.
Yeah, as I say, I'm still confident going forward, and the same thing about like last week. I'm happy that I managed to get the shithouse performance away from you. I like to say it's not satisfying to have less shots on goal and still pick up a winner, but it is. It's, anyone that doesn't is a liar. I prefer the shots on target to be the other way around, but the way your team is not going to be that. And it's the joys of having, it's like in real life, if you add Inzaghi in your team, there's always something that can happen. So he popped up in the last minute and got a goal for me. So he hasn't been doing that recently. He's still got a shit rating, but he'll still keep his place because he might score.
Well, no, this is it. And if I remember rightly, I believe it was your keeper that got man of the match, which tells you that the Devils were very much in it as well. I was disappointed in
to be involved in the game.
Sorry?
If I have, Barthez loves to be involved in the game. He always gets his better ratings and play. If I play, I went for a stage of the season where I had all nil. I kept a lot of clean sheets, but Barthez had nothing to do. When Barthez got something to do, when I conceded like 1 or 2, and I still picked up a win, Barthez got a 9. But it's not. Yes, he'll pull it out and he'll win me the game, but I've still got to put the ball in the net at the other end. Where a lot of if Barthez is a little bit busy, he plays better. The amount of times that I've drawn where they've only had 2 shots on target and he's conceded 2 outweighs his pulling 9s out of the bag. So yes, I've got my best player is my keeper, but
he plays better as an underdog. He plays better as an underdog.
Yeah, he plays
when
better.
You're the second best team.
If under pressure on a big game, when there's a big game, like what you were saying for Casillas, like you had with Casillas at Phoenix last year, right? On a big game, he steps up. Where most of my games this year, he's been perceived as being needing to play a big game. So if you want your big players to step up, he'll step up.
I was saying, Ryan, that I've done the maths to get the permutations for you. I'm pretty confident. I did check it 3 times that I've got this right. So Greavesy will get his playoff square if he avoids defeat on Sunday. And Devils will get theirs if we win and Gazelles and Bostock fail to win. Now, we'll come on to the games in a little bit, but I did have a little scout down to check who they were playing to see if it was possible I might get it this week with me being on comms. And I did notice that, Greavesy, you're playing Gazelles.
Yeah, I'm confident. I'm at home. I shithoused them away. I'll shithouse them at home. It's I'm on record of saying I want 8 points out of my remaining 12 at least. I've got two home games and I've got 2 away. My last run, I've got Haggis. I've got Gazelles at home. I've got Haggis away. Dudley are coming to the Chip Shop car park, and then I've got Northern Burn away. They're my last run, and no disrespect, Steve, I can't see anything less than 8 points in these 4 games.
That's an easy running on paper, isn't it? If you look at positions in the league table, not talking about how good the teams are, positions in the league table, Dudley,
yeah, positions in the league table, that's favourable for being in the top half. Ideally, in an ideal world, I'll get 12 in 12, but I'll settle for 2 home wins and 2 away draws. Or one loss. I might allow a loss. Because it's form. Form is key in this year. If you can get a draw, is better than a loss. Trying to get back off a loss in this league is hard.
That's exactly the point. I mean, for me, although we lost, as I said, it wasn't a bad performance by any stretch of the imagination. But the main thing for me was Mpenza finally scored, and that was critical.
19 goals, for fuck's sake.
Eh?
My top goal scorer is my centre midfielder. You can't say, oh, he's finally scored. He's got 19 goals in 18 goals in 19 games and 2 subs appearances.
No, but
he's on.
If we think back to what I said previously, compared to what people have said all throughout the season, okay, everyone accuses him of always being injured. He hasn't had 1 injury this season. He is the top goal scorer in the league, but he's gone 6 games without a goal. Admittedly, one of those he didn't play. You know, the one where I dropped everybody.
But also, you've gave him 2 games rest. You've sporadically rested him. He's had 2 games off the bench. So it's not as if you're flogging him like a dog. You played Dwight York up front. You've played Kelvin Phillips. You're gonna have the Kelvin Phillips would probably do better than bloody Kevin Phillips, fucking rat at least. You need to have if you're going to moan about a player who's potentially got injury problems and not playing and not being fit and saying, oh, he's all right. Well, you haven't played him every single game.
I've never been the one that's claimed that he's got these injury problems. If you think back to what I said, it's about being strikers having streaks. And the fact that he had that period, I took him out for 1 game, put him back in, he's now started scoring again. I think he will score every game we play between now and then.
I think that's a very good thing to do. With credit to you, I think that's a very good thing to do with strikers on this game. There's not many strikers that are inbuilt that will score every single game. The only one, even if you play against the AI, Maxim Tuselko is one of the few. Nicholas Anelka. There's not many strikers that will get more goals than game ratio. So when you've got a player that jumps above that, you have to. When I'm playing a home save and I've got a player scoring a goal a game, I'll drop him for a couple to give another striker a go to put him into, and then the AI, the computer remembers, and then he gets back on the goal trail. If you played the same striker every game, they don't get in the goals.
Correct.
But then you can't mention it as about him being fit and saying that he's not getting in, he's not scoring.
No, but this is what I'm saying. I haven't mentioned his fitness. There's everyone else that said that he's going to be injured at some point for a long period of time. He hasn't been. But
then you're also complaining that he's gone on a goal drought.
He has had a goal.
But he was on more goals than games. Personally, if I was you, he had 2 games, no goal, I'd have dropped him for 1 game and then brought him back in so it'd be fresh.
He still had his ratings though. He was still picking up 8s and getting assists. That's why I took so long to take him out. But like I say, he had his 1 game out, put him back in. He scored again. That's the end of his drought. And I'm confident he will score in each of the remaining games between now and the end of the season now.
Ratings are a fallacy for strikers. Look at Michael Owen. He gets an 8 every week and does fuck all. Apart from if he's playing Steam.
That was unbelievable. That can we talk about that? That was fantastic. I mean, in a horrible way, Steve. It was absolutely. I mean, to watch it, I was like, oh my god! I think Maka was like tearing his hair out. You were like dancing around the room, and all of a sudden, bang.
I think Super League at its absolute best that game. I think.
Oh,
It didn't help with Duggan and Wooder being on comms either for you, did it?
no, I think I deserved the laughter, obviously, from my Swemp commentary when Wooder got beat by a non-league side who was Liverpool, and I just went big time.
Oh, is he Would Imaginary Madrid?
No,
He's the
I watched that
dangle,
Swemp
isn't he?
commentary.
Imagine Madrid is a lad called Matt who he sort of come onto Twitter through the Facebook group, and he's the one who like Dudley Supporters Club early doors, I think. I tried to give him a bit of an hand with his squad because he was struggling. I got it sort of working, but yeah, he's going to find it a bit tough after his first 11 in that anyway. But yeah, I deserved it after my treatment of Wooder in the Swamp League when I were uncontrollably laughing.
Moving away from looking at the teams at the very top, we can't underestimate what a huge game week it was on Wednesday for Gazelles. And we now have it that there are 5 teams within 3 points of each other with 4 games to go. Those last few places in particular are going to be very exciting. And I can see it changing game week by game week now. Steve, do you think that will be the sort of the momentum shift for Gazelles and they can put a run together to secure a place?
I mean, to be fair, they're getting the results at the right times of the season. They had a decent run and then they were off the boil again, then got back on the arse again. Then they were off the boil. Is considering the side he's got together, it's been a extremely inconsistent season, considering there's probably more strong, especially behind his front 3 or 4, probably some of the most strongest players in Super League, let alone through any iteration of it. But as it stands, he's primed. I think there's going to be, whether it be Gazelles, whether it be Bostock, I think we're going to see a bit of what happened last season when Scott and Alf played last game of the season to sort of decide it, because the way that teams are dropping points or picking similar points up after teams are dropping points, there's definitely going to be a shootout at some point, whether it be the very last game or the penultimate game. But in terms of Gazelles, they've got all the tools there to go on a run and go on a very good run, which could stand them in good stead to get to the final and maybe win it, as everybody's alluded to. Everybody said that before the season, because let's be honest, they've got a fantastically strong squad, which looked a whole lot better when he did go to the 4-1-3-2 instead of playing like AMCs that probably won. And but out of the all top 6 at the minute, I think Jens is probably doing himself a bit of disservice, because he's lost a game there where he's lost. I think he's lost. Is that his 8th game he's lost this year? And 7 of them, but four of them were like his first 4 games. So he's had more than enough form to do himself a bit staying in there. It's going to be a great 4 game weeks anyway, regardless of what happens.
Ryan, 2-part question for you. As you're technically off duty, you don't have to be straight down the middle. One, with it being this tight with so few games to go, it must be exciting for you to watch as well as still being a part of. And secondly, if you look at the 2 teams outside the top 6 at the moment, which do you think is most likely to get a place in the top 6, if any?
I mean, Gazelles is just the obvious answer. I mean, the squad on paper, I mean, well, the game is played on paper and it's not kind of thing, but the squad on paper, Steve alludes to it, absolutely world class. It's so good defensively as well. You know, Cafu and Dede, and then he's got Mourinho, Ferdinand, Lucio, 2 of those 3 absolutely solid. Roy Keane. That team shouldn't be conceding goals. I mean, they're so good back there. And they kind of hit form there. They beat Gloucester, who've been a fantastic team, 3-0, absolutely dominated them. Yeah, and they've got by far the toughest running. But to be honest with you, I look at those games and I see them as winnable games for Gazelles. I mean, sometimes you look at them and say, we think the Church down at Boston, Devils, I don't know who else left. you'd think no chance. But with Gazelles, you think actually they're one of the teams that could do that. I mean, Bostock, the other team you asked there, I mean they've got a good chance. As Scott alluded to, I think they've got 3 home games left. Obviously, home and away advantage huge in the league. But you've got to pick 6 teams, haven't you, to get in that top 6? I think out of the 2, the Gazelles are more likely, but I wouldn't really let both of them get in.
I know you can't give away the intricacies of what each manager does, understandably, but why do you think Gazelles have been so inconsistent when they were so widely tipped as the favourites at the start?
I mean, Greg has changed his formation more this season than he has in any previous seasons. I'll be honest with you, 5 feet. I did a lot at the start of the season, have a good look at people's tactics. I had a quite nosy what each people were doing. I mean, to kind of learn and bit myself. Since probably week 8, 9, it's basically get the tactics in and on as quickly as possible, and I don't go in and check really. So you mean what he's doing in his team instruction, player instructions? I don't have a clue. It's basically I load up that tactic, put the players in those positions. So I can't give, and as much as it might be interesting, I couldn't if you wanted me to give you his insight. But he's changed his tactics a lot this season, whereas in previous years he's kind of stuck with it through thick or thin and kind of ground out results. This season he switched it around, and he seems to have been more successful when he's kind of landed on a formation and stuck with it. I think this is the 4-1-3-2. He's the first time he's been beat with a formation and then stuck with it. Whereas every time he's been beat with a different formation, he's changed it. So I think people changing the tactics every week doesn't bode well long term. I understand tweaking a tactic, making a couple little bit of changes, much like yourself do, Fifey. But they're kind of reinventing the wheel every week, with no disrespect to Steve, but sometimes that's what you do. It's complete. You don't know where you're going to land. None of them are generally look on paper bad tactics, but they generally can be nothing like what you've had the previous week. Sometimes you just need a little bit of consistency, and to know that basically you might have a great tactic there, but the first week you play it, you might get beat with it. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad tactic.
Crazy. Let's briefly turn our attentions to the other end of the table, somewhere remarkably me and you haven't found ourselves yet. We're essentially now looking, I think, at a 2-horse race. I think Northern Burn have done enough not to be in that conversation. Do you see an opportunity? There's a 4-point gap between Dragons and Astor. Do you see an opportunity, and have you seen enough in Dragons to say they can catch that and maybe leapfrog them between now and the end of the season?
No. Unfortunately, I don't. The players that Dragons have in their squad and do not use is criminal.
Completely agree.
You've got Clarence Seedolf, who, yes, he played last week. He would walk into most Super League sides and he is sat most of the time on the fringes doing fuck all when they've been crying out for a centre midfielder. They've got Ariel Ortega.
This guy's talking sense.
Why? Steve's favourite, Ronnie Johnson, sitting there, and you got Ibrahim Saeed sitting playing centre half instead. You got Ibrahim Saeed has positioning of 10. He's a very good CDM when you're a lower league team, but this is a Super League. If he's got a good player beside him as a CDM, him and Z Elias would be a very good CDM partnership as a double pivot, and you have Taribo West and Ronnie Johnson as a centre half. Admittedly, that wouldn't be the best defensive core in the league, but it's a solid team that will keep you clean sheet. It's a solid core that will keep you clean sheets. You've got Balmer on one side, Zari on the other. That's a very good core that you can build from. But they don't seem to look. I think they're too worried about the names of the players rather than what they could actually do. And that's it.
And on the flip side, and Steve, I'll ask you, I don't know if you agree with the statement there about Dragons not being able to catch Asta. What is it about Asta that's, is it just that Alf has enough, whether it be in the squad or enough knowledge in himself, that he will do just enough not to finish bottom?
I don't think I quite agree with the point. They've shown and had a couple of results of Dragons that they can mix it with the better side when the right players are playing. I know Ryan agrees with Greaves. I totally agree with Greavesy as well, that who have played well for them this season as well. And I know they've settled on this non-winner stays on malarkey and all this. But yeah, Ariel Ortega, for me, I think he was playing very well from start of the season. Prime example. And I still think that they might creep. I know I've got them next game, which probably is going to hinder me by it, but I think they might creep 13th, but it needs a bit of settledness and a bit of, like I say, everybody knows that Saeed is terrible. And even if
he's a good DM. He's a good DM and he can take a penalty.
But they've probably got far better as well.
In all honesty, when you're playing the game, if you take control of Roma, do you sign Ibrahim Saeed?
Well, no, it's Roma, isn't it? But
so he's not a transfer if you're lining up CDMs that you want to play, like transfer targets for next season that you're thinking of, you're not putting Ibrahim Saeed as the top player in that.
For me, there's a nailed-on transfer. I don't know I don't like talking about transfers too much, as you're probably aware, but for me, I know that Hadji absolutely loves Saeed, absolutely loves him. We play him every game. And I know that Dragons, I think they're all in agreement, they need a centre-back. And there's Uliano at Leicester not playing a game. And for me, he's one of the best defenders in the league.
Definitely.
That's an obvious.
Uliano has one random stat which can be a detriment to him. And I've seen someone click on it, and it's a centre-back's determination. And Uliano this season in the Super League, his determination is 7. I wouldn't want a centre-back determination of 7, no matter how they are.
Fair enough. Well, I don't know if the Dragons lad have spotted that, but I'd still have him over. I'd still have him over Ibrahim Saeed at centre back.
True.
Before you get dragged into talk of transfers, right, because we know you don't want to discuss it, I'll give the final vote to you. With what you've seen and with 4 games to go, who's going to finish bottom, Asta or Dragons?
With what I've seen, then you go on with Dragons.
Okay.
Because, that's not who should finish bottom. That's who will finish bottom based on what I've seen.
Oh, okay. So does that suggest, therefore, you think Asta should finish bottom?
I mean,
Dragon
with the quality of his, Alf started with not the best squad, and he's made it worse throughout the season. Dragons have got a much better squad than Asta, in my opinion, much better. Now, I think everyone, with no disrespect to Alf, everyone is looking at an Asta game and thinking, I should be winning this. Right? And I don't mean that any disrespect to Alf. I think that's how everyone approaches it. Everyone knows it can be a tricky fixture, but everyone's expecting that if they're at the best, they'll win it. Whereas I think if Dragons are at the best, then they can beat some of the best. So that's my take on it.
This year has been the one different for me. As coming from a new manager, Alf's original tactic that he always used last year used to worry me, because I don't play the narrow and I don't flood them areas. It always used to worry me. So then seeing him this year playing 10 other different formations, it then settled me a lot more, going, oh, well, he doesn't know what his best formation is or what his players are. Like what I said, from my formation that I had at the start of the season I wanted to play with to what I am now, really, I've dropped a striker to AMC and my 2 wingers to fullback. The core of my side is still in the same place. So my transfers that I brought in at the start haven't changed a lot.
No,
So-
to be fair, it's similar for me. As of about game week 4, I've more or less played the same tactic. The only thing I've changed is the centre mid sometimes goes and makes a 3 in the AMs and then he drops back again.
So then you've got the bit is, if you like what I said about Dragons a few weeks ago, if you don't know what your best formation is it wide, is it narrow, how many are you going to have in AMC or DMC? How do you know what you did your transfers for at the start of the season?
Yeah, it's good. It's
So-
a very good point.
You're bringing in
And-
players that are never going to be there.
And just going back slightly, something that Ryan has subtly done there is whoever seems to be playing Aston next week, or Sunday, I should say, he's piled the pressure on, saying that every team should be looking at it as a game they could win. I wonder who's playing Aston next.
Is that you?
You should be
Let's
getting a
look
win,
ahead
mate.
let's look ahead to the games on Sunday. And as we've got the 3 of us here, we'll give Ryan the games that don't include any of us to preview. So let's start bottom up. So Ryan, Sloths v Haggis. That on paper should be a cracking game.
It should, and I think this is a kind of make or break. I mean, Haggis have kind of ruled themselves out of it for a while now, but Sloths, as I just mentioned previously, have just hit a little bit of bad form, took a heavy defeat, and we all know the quality that's in that Haggis team. Do you mean we know where the weaknesses lie? I know they did a transfer with the reserves just before the last game. They brought Katana. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Katana, but he's one of my kind of go-to players, and he's a striker, and he looks pretty handy with his stats as well. So I imagine he's going to get given a run out. I don't know. Sloths are at home. On paper, Sloths should win that game based on form. But if you're looking at 11 players versus 11 players, then Haggis could do that. And I really do fancy Haggis, if I'm being honest. I fancy them because they're just grinding out results a little bit recently. And I think that then brings them back into it a little bit. And I think it also brings Sloths back into the playoff question.
And a score prediction, please.
0-1.
Steve, score prediction from you?
Yeah, last couple of games, looking at Sloths, and we'll go 2-1 Haggis.
And Greavesy?
4 draw, 0-0.
I've actually gone against Haggis the last couple of weeks, which isn't like me. I normally back them every game. But I agree with what Ryan said. Sloth's form has been just as bad as ours, for example, of late, dropping points when they really shouldn't be. So I'm going to go for a 2-0 Haggis win myself.
Sorry to interrupt you. Who did Sloths, my memory's shot today. Who did Sloths play last Sunday? As in they played. Yeah, no. They played Gazelles on Wednesday. Who did they play Sunday? Oh, last Wednesday.
They played Dragons games, didn't they? And got beat 5-3, was it?
Oh, is that the
No,
one? Yeah.
it was Fifey stuffed in 5-3.
Yes, they beat Dragons on the Sunday, and then I beat them 5-3.
Yeah, I knew they had two defeats on the bench, and I think sometimes that just does something to a squad. You mean the odd defeat in you can get away with a little bit?
No, they had a victory between that.
Did they? Right.
Yeah, Fifey beat them, then they got a win, and then
right. Yeah, of course, David Collins, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Of course, yeah. All right.
The bastard.
Breezy, let's come to you next. Locomotive Boston, as we said, hosting Gazelles. Massive game for everyone involved in the top 6. That possibly, just having a quick look, with the exception maybe of Hall's Leddersford, this could be the most important game of the night for a lot of teams.
Well, when Locomotive rock up, it's always the most important game of the night, isn't it? That's why we're always on last. So I'm taking it with a pinch of salt, and I've got my players are back from suspension. I've got a player who'll be making his debut as well coming in, and it will be forming. I'll be forming a former Bolton Phoenix partnership in the middle there to hopefully spur me on. But yeah, I'm sticking with the same tactic, the same formation to keep me solid, because when I differentiate from it, I get stuffed.
Is that you hinting that you're bringing? Is it Sebastian Kale you're bringing in?
Yeah, he's moving in. Kale is
Decor.
moving into midfield. Kale and Decor in centre mid, and Pancaro, because that bloody Kaladza loves the yellow card too much. He kicks people all the time. So he's back to the bench because he's also
One player. I'm aware Fife sometimes keep going off the ball here, but I mean, the lads is one player maybe a little bit underused this season, maybe.
Because he just he's too versatile. He's versatile. So I'm always conscious from a bench, and he's in the same. If you like doing your compare a player, he's exactly the same rating as if you compare them with your assistant for a CDM as what Emmanuel Petit is. And Petit is very good. Admittedly, he didn't make the team this week. Well, he made the bench, but he didn't make the first 11. But Emmanuel Petit is a very good CDM, as you well know. And I'd actually rate him throughout a season. I'd prefer Petit above Kaladza.
I agree.
As a central CDM. So before I had Simeone, and now I've got Decor. Yeah, he is. Admittedly, he hasn't been best for me. He's been shit, but that's by the by. His best rating has been a 7. He's got a terrible rating.
You just don't drop him.
But I know he'll come good. I know he'll come good. So I've got out of the 3, because I play with 2 CDMs. Out of the 3, if Petit's fit, are you going to pay Kaladza in front of him? When you know he's on the bench, he's a very good person to have, because if I have a CDM get injured, if I have a centre back get injured, if I have a fullback get injured, he can fill in all those positions.
One thing that we're trying to do though is I was trying to. And again, Hodgie uses the same logic with Volodenko. Sometimes drops Volodenko because he's so onto the bench because he's so versatile. What I would suggest is that I think this season, and we're trying to do it more and more, is we're trying to use sense when it comes to substitutions for injuries, red cards. Therefore, if you were playing Kaladza at centre DM and he got injured, or you're playing him centre back and he got injured, or someone else got injured, we can move Kaladza into that position and put someone back.
Yeah, but it's the joys of the Australian League. If we were allowed one more substitute, if we were allowed the 5, I'd play a centre half, I'd play a midfielder, and I'd play a striker, and I'd play a fullback. They'd all be on the bench. But because you can only have 4, I have to have a defender who can also play CDM, a midfielder, and a player who can play attacking. Because I don't want to be caught out. I don't like putting square pegs in round holes.
That's very similar to if you notice my subs bench, it's generally like Kivu.
Well, you nearly got caught out last week. When you had, in theory, I wouldn't have been happy putting a winger at wing back.
Fifey does that regular with.
Yeah, he does it regular.
I generally put Harry Kewell there. I would generally, like when Diaz got injured on Wednesday, Ryan was right. He knew exactly what I was going to do. But my first thought was, right, let's stick Harry Kewell there and I'll stick an attacker on to go for a goal.
See, you're playing Diaz in the wrong place. I played him in the reserves. That's where he fucking belongs. But that's by the by.
Again, Ryan's pointed this out 2 or 3 times. He's actually surprised him how well he's done when he's come in.
He cleaned the boots, is what he did for my team. He's on the level of Danny Mills, is what he is. He's on the level of Danny Mills.
Who's got Danny Mills?
Where is Danny Mills?
He's in my fucking reserves, cleaning the boot. He gives Abby and Barthez a blowjob when he gets a 9. That's what he does.
We need to get #save Danny Mills trending.
I've told you, you can have him. You can have him as a transfer.
We're not
There's-
allowed
I-
to call transfers.
Well,
Read what was a school prediction.
It's a bit, I can't.
Well,
Score
there's-
prediction,
there's a
I'm going to
discussion-
win 2-0.
You know, Steve?
Oh, a tough one. But he's at home, Greavesy. I'm going to go for a 1-0 shithouse in as per.
Is he playing Gazelle?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, the form of Gazelle at the minute is really interesting.
Well, they're like a dodgy boiler. They're hot and cold. They win
Yeah.
one, lose one, win one, lose one.
Yeah. Honestly, I mean, if you're pushing me for a side winning, then I think Gazelles are more likely to win, but I'd probably go for a draw on this one. So if you want a prediction, 2-2 or 1-1.
Okay. No, you can have 2-2, mate. You stay firmly on that fence. I'm do you know what? I'm gonna say that my luck will be in and Gazelles are gonna get a 3-1 win.
Because at the end of this,
Yeah.
I'm conscious I don't want to kind of jump in and mess up your kind of your plan, but I wouldn't mind having a quick chat at the end of this about your thoughts on transfers of unhappy players.
Yeah.
But yeah, I won't interrupt you now, but I'll have a conversation at the end if that's all right.
No, absolutely. Mr. Co-Chair, we are back with you for game number 3, and the one that I suggested is probably game of the night: Bulls v Leddersford.
Yeah, obviously Leddersford in form, Hull's hot and cold. You can't look past Leddersford at the moment, can you? I mean, it's all been about that front partnership. Montella and Torres, they scored 4 games on the bounce, both of them, which is something spectacular for a strike partnership. I think that's taken, is it 4 wins and a draw in the last 5? There they are, in form team in the league. Look really, really strong. Hull's suffering from a little bit of an injury crisis. Did not look the same side without NDI. I won't reveal whether NDI is back this week.
They had a few out last. They had a few out Wednesday, didn't they? Ambrosini was out as well.
Yeah, he bought Paredes as a kind of 3rd or 4th choice CDM. Had a couple of other injuries as well. Yeah, Claudio Pizarro's not really been a really good deputiser for Van Nistelrooy and Tazalco. So if Van Nistelrooy and Tazalco aren't scoring goals, he's gone to the bench. I don't think Pizarro scored more than maybe 1 all season. I mean, I've got to look on form on this one, and I think that I look at that game, and let's say 5 weeks ago, I'd say nailed on Hull's win. Now I think Leddersford are favourites. I do, I really do. And Hodgie just got something that works. And I mean, when Hodgie gets something that works, he really does stick with it. I remember as Ardsley boss, I think last season he holds the Super League record of 8 wins on the bounce. Is that right?
Yeah.
I mean, he definitely can get those runs together. Obviously, he's not going to get the 8 wins on the bounce, but I think he might get one more. So I'm probably going to go for an away win in this one.
Steve?
Yeah, it's difficult to see past it a minute, isn't it? But if you take the first 4 losses out of the game, Hulls have been very good for that period since. I'm not going to stay on fence, and man, I think maybe Hulls might sneak it.
Greavesy?
Yeah, it's gonna be an exciting game because they both like attacking. I think it's going to be a Hulls 2-1 win.
I think that will be. I'll speak to Martin before the weekend. I'll say before the weekend, probably Sunday afternoon, and suggest about running orders. And I think that I might even put that one on last or at least penultimately, which I think because it involves 2 teams who are catchable in the playoffs, which obviously whoever gets beat in that game is going to leave the door open for someone below them.
Completely agree. I'm happy to sacrifice my spot on last and go first as we're playing Astor. So
yeah, well, it's the way I look at it, that game, and I don't want to go in. Obviously, you're going to have your piece to say on it, but do you mean if Astor win, it means nothing? If you lose, you might. I mean, your top 2 spot potentially is under threat, but your top 6 spots. I mean, no one's going to. I don't think 7th place is going to get 40 points. That's my.
We did see. So yeah, Oh no, we did Greaves as well. So it's just mine. Do you know what? It depends on the availability at Hull. I've been backing them all season. I agree there will be goals. Both teams looking to attack. So I'm going to play Wolves 3, Leadersford 2. Steve, you've been relatively quiet tonight, so let's bring you in for a chance to say your piece. You're away to your good friend Dragons.
Yeah, I beat him at home, and yeah, I did change it up a little bit, which I thought I attacked really well with what I did on Wednesday night. Deserved the win. I mean, I did sort of point to it that I have been through and watched every single game of mine again after Wednesday night, and I genuinely, it's got to be something I'm doing wrong somewhere because I've been a better side.
Honestly, that's serious. That.
Yeah, no, he told me last night, Ryan. He's been through every single stream this season and just watched his games again.
He must have been. You must have been. You got to have sleepless nights after you've all that. You can't tell me you watched the 7-1 again.
Well, no, that goes by that one. I was never in that one. That's the only one I didn't. But to be fair, there's been a lot of games where I've been the far better side in at least one half. I think probably there obviously the 7-1. There was the first defeat to Astor, maybe its second one. Both times against Bostock, I deserved the result, I thought, and I got bollocks out of it. So I mean, I'm not complaining or anything like that. And again, it probably does go to the tinkering a bit too much. But I found something that attacked really well. I know he got a little bit of grief in the manager's chat, especially from the co-chair, but John Otaka, who I did bring in from himself, his acceleration, he's off the ball, his pace,
he's quick as shit. He's quick as shit.
He scored a goal, and for his forehand column, which I have looked at for all my players, he's very big in big matches, he's very consistent, and he's on corners for this weekend. Yeah, I think I've got a good chance of getting a result, but they're liable to stick 4 or 5 past somebody at any point as well, aren't they? So difficult one to call.
Do you think you've been better or worse since your transfers?
The deal with Ian, I still definitely. To be fair, I think I'm in a better position. If I hadn't done the transfer with Totti, would I have gone on that bit of a run having Tomasi there? I doubt it very much, really. Tomasi's been sort of key to the bit of good form I had where I won 4 and drew 1 in 5 games, and he were playing very well. He's had a couple of lighter games his last couple of weeks, but I've had Davids out 3. I think if I'd have had Davids against Macca, I don't think I'd have conceded them 2 goals, but it was suspended for the 3rd time this season. No,
Tomasi's even Sloth's going to drop out the thing if they do.
Maybe so, mate. But I would say it made my team. I've been fairly settled since making the transfers as well. I alluded to it before. I had too much versatility, which I went for, which enabled too much tinkering. Whereas now I've got a lot more set players. And to be fair, at a 7.1, yeah, I know it's only 7.1. I definitely think that Crespo's made a terrible start to his WL career. I think that was a little bit harsh as well. But he's back leading line again. You can't bring players in and not play them week in, week out. But after a couple of 6s, Dalmat's dropping out because he's been pretty poor last couple of games. So I dropped Alex back and brought Gallardo in to have a bit of a sniff and see how he goes. And I'm pretty confident of getting a result. But
what's Van der Vaart done to piss you off?
What's what, Matt?
What's Van der Vaart done to piss you off?
He's been shite, mate. He's got an average. He's played about 5 games. He's played about 5 games and he's got 6.3 or something like 6.33.
That was when you were shit.
Next season, he'll probably be on a starting centre midfielder, without a doubt.
Not if he hadn't had any games.
Yeah, if training etc. is all souped up, he'll be fine. He's going to be my starting centre midfielder next year, and To be fair, I were happy with how Kufre performed after Ayala got 4 last time out. I think, to be fair, I think he's been poor as Ayala. He really has. 6, he ain't averaging 7.
Are you thinking of Ayala as a bit of a maggot on the end of your rod for transfers next season?
Maybe not really, because obviously I think Tony Adams will be past it. So I've got Ayala.
Rustico as well. You've got Rustico in reserves as well, haven't you?
Yeah, so Rustico, Kufre and Ayala are going to be my main 3. Patrick Anderson could probably still do a job next year. I'm looking at where Warnes has played. He's borderline going to be on his way out, because obviously I brought him in pre-season. Yeah, he's a difficult one. He's one of them, like, probably more so Ayala than Totti. If I lose him, could it hinder me? I didn't think twice about Ayala, Totti, especially when I was getting to Marcy. And on the second bit of that, where I lost Mild, but bought Mazzantini in, apart from his 6th this week, he's been really, really good. I know I got chastised a bit for it, but he's somebody I've had a lot of success with. Yeah, I don't quite think he'll be on the end of a rod, because I think he's a bit too strong, really, to be left with. Kufre and Rustico are a solid centre-back partnership themselves, but then you look a bit weaker in what I've got behind that. So, yeah, probably not. I genuinely don't think, in terms of what the first team is at the minute, I can't see there being a lot of movement with me coming into next season, when I'm going to settle and play a formation for nearly a full season. Anyway, I think I need to stick with what I've got now. Have I got
Yeah,
Ryan
no.
up? Have I got the most marquee players in one squad?
Yeah,
No.
that was you've got Crespo.
You got 3, haven't you?
Yeah, it's
Marcy,
Marcy, Davids and
and-
Crespo. I don't think anybody else has got 3, have they?
No. And how you manage that, I've no idea. The one that stood out to me was the Davids for Ashley Cole?
Yeah, to be fair, that were I got so lucky with that, really, because obviously where Kieran's head were at before the season, and me letting Roy Keane go stupidly. Who, to be fair, yeah, I have watched Super League for the last couple of seasons and been involved, but even on home saves, he's never really done it as much as some other DMCs for me. So again, but we'll see where we are come season's end, and if there's any tweaking that needs to be done. But I genuinely don't think, apart from players that are probably bobbing in between my reserves, I don't think there'll be much done, really.
Let's bring the conversation full circle and quickly ask you all for your score predictions for Dragons v Dudley. Steve, let's go you first.
4-1 Dudley.
Greavesy?
1-0 Dudley.
Ryan?
I'll go 2-1 Dudley Hill. Well, that'll definitely be the first game on.
The match of the day.
I promise I'll stick around after.
I will go 2-1 Dragons. Just so someone backed them. No other reason than just so someone has backed them, I think.
No, it's fair cop, mate. It's fair cop.
Ryan, Fulchester v Northern Burn. Another game which, if played on paper, would be excellent.
Yeah. I'm conscious that I'm talking through more games than the other lads, but yeah, Fulchester haven't been at the races recently. Are they at Fulchester at home?
Yes.
Right. Well, if Fulchester were away, I think they'd get beat. And Northern Burn are a different outfit than they were maybe 6 or 7 weeks ago. I mean, people just seem to get results at Northern Burn. That isn't happening anymore. It's now a tough place to go. It's a tough team to beat. However, Fulchester at home, I think Macca's tactics are a bit more effective at home. I mean, he was very unlucky against you, Greavesy, with the 3 up top. He was very lucky against Steve when he kind of a slightly tweaked version of that tactic. I mean, he's got Michael Owen scoring, and whoever knows what that means, kind of thing, if that will continue. But
I got told I had Crespo scoring, and that didn't follow through. So
yeah, it's an interesting one. Yeah, it's one of those. I think Macca, if this was away from home, I think Northern would definitely beat Colchester. But because Colchester are at home, I think they'll beat them. Which is, there's a little bit of it, and obviously Macca won't like this, but there's a little bit of me that wants Northern to get something, because that keeps it opens up the kind of playoff situation more, which is that's kind of, as a neutral, what I'm after is kind of as much excitement as possible, much back and forth as possible coming towards the end of the season. But I'll be honest with you, even with current form, I really can't look past Colchester at home. I think they're too strong. But he has got some defensive issues, I believe. I don't know how public that is, but anyway, he's got a couple of he's got one of his main defenders injured. It might be a suspension. I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure how much I'm correctly remembering and how much I'm just talking about. But so I'll probably go Colchester 1-0.
See?
Yeah, I think if Colchester win, it's going to be 1-0. But if Burn win, it could be something like a 3-1. I just think Ian's one of the form sides in the league at the minute, isn't he? And if I remember rightly, Colchester not being beat all season at home.
He's been beaten
I
once.
think Greavesy tells me every week he's the only person to get any points from them.
Yeah, I thought that was it. I thought his draw was the only point that's been taken from there. That's what I sort of thought as well.
I might be wrong.
That's why he was on about when I got when he equalised, when I took points off him. That's why he said where was Gondor when the C-suite fell, because he'd won every single home game.
Right.
Apart from the shithouse draw I got.
Yeah, I can't see with the game being as it is and how lucky he was last game out to an extent. I'm going to go for a Burn win here, 2-1.
Okay. Greasy?
I think Colchester are far too strong at the moment, especially at home. I think it'll be a Colchester 3-0 win.
Did you want to add something, Ryan, before I give my prediction?
No, go for it, mate.
All right, okay. I'm going to say it's going to finish 1-1, and I think it will carry on the excitement of teams outside, them potentially overtaking Colchester, depending on goal difference. We've got. I'll take my turn to look at the Astor v Devils game. I've had to make a couple of changes. As I said earlier, I wasn't too disappointed with the performance, more just the result midweek. But Diaz is injured, so he's had to come out. Wes Brown has been. He was really good in the middle of the season, but he's been quite inconsistent. He's kind of gone 6-8, 6-7, 5 like that. So he's come out. And Harry Kuehl's come out for this one. And Barry Ferguson's doing his best Montero impression. Montero, who gets criticised every other week for always getting a yellow card, but he's only just served his first suspension. I think Ferguson's now on his third, possibly even his fourth suspension of the season. I'm not sure why he's getting so many yellow cards this year, but he's certainly putting some tackles in and not winning them. So yeah, we've had to make a couple of changes, but as Ryan said, everyone should be looking at Astor and thinking they can win. I'm looking at them as a chance to win. Like I say, if we perform like we did Wednesday, I think we will win. But you know, Alf is that wily character, and he put a tweet out, was it today or yesterday, about putting his team in, and said that Devils are almost certainly going to win. I don't think it would be a shock if he beat me, but I think it would be a shock if Astor beat Devils, if that makes sense. But I'm going to go into it confident, given the performance on Wednesday, and say we will win 4-1. Let's ask Greavesy first on this one.
It all depends with your dodgy squad selection. It's down to you if you win or not.
Do you want me to tell you what my 11 is?
No, you don't. You don't. because if you play the right players in the right position, you'll win. If you put a Twitter poll out and let someone pick a team for you, you might lose. But
See, again,
if you
I
play,
do it purely for engagement. I actually submitted my team before that poll was finished.
my is I would have. You've got a very, very good squad. You're one of the few people that I know that have a player of one of the few teams in the league that have a striker with the Super League credentials of Olusedabi, and you don't play him as the striker.
Well, breaking news for you, Greavesy, is he is one of the players that's coming in to start.
Well, that's good, because if you've got when you actually rested your players, you played Kevin Phillips instead of Olusedabi up front. I could pick a reserve team out of your 40 players you've got. I could pick a team in your same formation better than what you played against Ledford, and still leave out the 7 players that you did. Kevin Phillips should be nowhere near the Super League. He's like Danny Mills. He's fucking shit. But Olusedabi is one of the elite strikers for the Super League. Last year, did he get 15 goals in the league for Churchtown? Playing as part of a free? He nearly outscored Van Nistelrooy. He's one of the players that if you get him and you've got him in the Super League, he will tick over goals all season. That's why I said at the start, you have the front fire free of Ronaldinho, Impenza, and Olusedabi. Then
Well,
3-5, and you've got goals.
That is my front three, Viasta.
And it's got goals in it, mate. And Harry Kewell is a touchy subject with people. Some people love him, some people don't. But he does chip in, he performs throughout the year. He's the only player I actually know I've seen playing the game whose determination stats go down. I'm just saying that. I haven't seen any other player do that. I've seen his determination go down throughout the game. But
Due to his personal life, then.
Yeah, to be fair, if you've got his missus, your determination go down as well, wouldn't it? So, but
So what is the prediction?
If you've picked the proper team, I say Astor will lose and Devils will win 3-0.
Steve?
3-1 Devils, mate. And as much as I do, going back off there, people hate Harry Kewell. I hate him for what he is as a man person, for what he's done in his career. But I think on the game itself, he's fantastic, to be fair. But you're going to be far too strong, in my opinion, for that Aston team.
Well, unsurprisingly, Ryan doesn't seem to want to talk about the Devils because he closed his camera. Oh, no, he's back. He's back. He did close his camera. Have you got a score prediction for Aston v Devils, Ryan?
I think you'll hammer them, if I'm being honest. I've not seen any of the teams. I can guess that Harry Kewell will be left wing back, so you'll be playing a very attacking lineup. I'm probably going to go.
Kewell's out.
Is he right? I think either way, Swindon Devils at home to Astor should be 3-4-0 or 1 victory. So I'll go with a 4-1.
Okay. There's one more game, Ryan, that I'd like you just to preview briefly for
Can I have
us.
a question to you? Can I give you a question, Fife, just very quickly?
Sure.
I've seen a couple of believe messages and tweets on Twitter, basically making that basically you're going for it this season. How much has the Devils' confidence been knocked by being beat at home to Locomotive? And so basically, you must have at some point in the season, I know you've been doing yourself down all season, you must have at some point in the season got a little bit confident and thought, actually, we're the real deal here. We've got some serious players. We're getting a decent settled formation. We can do it. And then this week, you've basically gone full strength against a really good team and come up a little bit short. Has that done you down a little bit?
No, and the reason for that was the performance. I thought we were the better side and deserved at least a point. To concede late, it was the theme of the night, and everyone, as you've said, everyone will drop points at some point. I mean, the only thing that slightly knocked my confidence this week was Scott did a tweet where he showed the table at the same time last year, and it showed obviously Bolton Phoenix top and how many games you'd lost. And I think it was 3, possibly 4, and we're now on 6, which means we've lost more than you did in a title-winning season. That made me think, but apart from that, no, I wasn't unduly concerned. You're right, as the wins kept coming, particularly when we were beating teams like Fulchester, Churchtown, teams that I've never, ever been able to get a result against. I thought, do you know what, this might actually happen. But I'm very much, because of everything that has happened in the Super League, until I see that red box, I'm going to assume I won't make it.
Publicly.
That's my story, and sticking to it.
Sorry, you can continue now, so I don't
that's right. So yeah, the last game to just briefly touch on, but because I know you wanted to bring the topic before we finish as well, Bostock v Churchtown.
Yeah, I mean, Bostock have been, they started so strong. They were league leaders for quite a while. They went on a terrible run, and now they're a little bit hit and miss. I don't think they've still not looked to the outfit they did at the start of the season. He seems to have, in my opinion, Scott, I think probably one of, like, from my kind of, in my opinion, probably one of the most knowledgeable managers in the league. I mean, there's a lot of knowledgeable managers in this league, and I mean, you guys included, but Scott definitely knows the game inside out. And I think that at some points in this season, he's been experimenting, and I don't think the Super League's really the place to be doing that. And he hasn't got away with picks like Castroman the way that Fifey, you've got away with players like Gravison in there. I mean, he's not had the luxury of basically putting a not the best player in and getting away with it. He's needed players like Vieri, among others, to really have a good season. I don't think he's got one of the strongest squads, so he needs those players, his big players like Vieri, to have a really, really strong season in order.
Vieri's been key for him, because when Vieri plays well, Bostock win. And unfortunately, Vieri hasn't played well this year.
He's not, and that's completely it. He needs to make a run at the playoffs and to do well in the playoffs. He needs a prime Vieri.
On paper,